So hi everyone, I'm Monica Huang, a research engineer at the Carbon Leadership Forum. I'm going to talk about this project we have going on right now called Bicycling by Fair Washington. I'll just talk about what it is and what we're doing. All right, so yeah, let's look at some topics. So what is the Bicycling by Fair Washington project? It's a pilot study funded by the state of Washington. We started the project in July and we're aiming to finish at the end of this year, November, December. This project was funded by two budget provisos, having us, the CLF, and the Department of Commerce, who we're working with, perform two tasks. The first one is to create a reporting database. This is not a long-term database. It's more of a prototype, testing, demonstration database. And it's going to collect environmental and social or labor data. The BiClean part is the environmental part, and then the BiFair part is the labor data. And then the second task is conducting a case study on a couple of pilot projects. So right now we have a couple of pilot projects that are in design or under construction, and their task is to test out the reporting requirements and see how hard it is to collect all this data. If they run into roadblocks, we want to learn from the experience, and that'll help us guide future iterations of a potential BiClean program. So what are the reporting requirements for the database? These reporting requirements are based on HB 1103. So the provisos tell us exactly what data we need to collect. And then our job is to create the reporting templates and kind of the data structure, and then maybe think about additional data that would be nice to collect in a building database, such as like the building typology, for example. So this diagram shows an overview of the type of data that we're collecting. On the left in the blue is project data. So that's like basic information about the building and like a material quantity. So we're asking contractors to provide material quantity data for at least 4 eligible materials. So that's structural concrete, reinforcing steel, structural steel, engineered wood. The other materials like enclosure materials are optional, but they're not required in this database. And then on the right, this is product data. So this is the environmental and labor data, the EPD, health certifications if they have it, but we're not expecting that for structural materials, manufacturer name and location, supplier code of conduct if they have it, and the working condition data, which is the labor data. And the contractor is responsible for reaching out to the supplier and telling them that you need to submit this data, but we're going to ask the suppliers to, the suppliers will probably be doing most of the work of providing the product data. If the suppliers don't have EPDs, we're hoping that they will, at least for this pilot study, that they will acquire an EPD, but if it's too hard for them, we'll want to learn about that and what are the roadblocks for them and stuff like that. So all of this data is going to be submitted to the online portal with pilot database. EC3 is also an option. They can help supply some of this data. So that's why the EC3 icon is there. So current project status, we're about halfway through the whole project. As you can see in the kind of the top row here, for the pilot project, for the database development, we've developed the initial data reporting structure. So this was kind of looking at how other databases create their data reporting structure for kind of LCA databases and things like that. We created reporting templates in Excel or Google Sheets, shared them with pilot projects, shared them with stakeholders, got feedback in a survey, asking them what they think about the templates, the fields that we chose. Does it make sense? Is it confusing, or what do we need to add? Things like that. and we wrote a progress report, submitted in January. And then in the bottom row, in the blue row, is status of the pilot projects. So we started out with 2 pilot projects that were required by the provisos. One was at UW Tacoma, one was at UW Seattle. So we got started with them pretty early. And then we found a couple more pilot projects to join the pilot study. And I think the next slide, yep, the next slide shows which pilot projects we have right now. So they're all either in design or construction right now and slated to end construction this year. Yeah, and then we might have 2 more, but we're not sure about those yet. So at this point, I'm gonna just exit out of the presentation and show you the reporting templates. People are usually interested in that. So there were 2 reporting templates. This is the contractor one. This is just, this is like the rough draft of the reporting template. We're gonna migrate it to the online portal, but this is what we showed to people to get their feedback. So it has some background info and instructions and definitions. For the contractor, they have to fill out project info, just like building type, height, things like that. Building certification. Material data. This is kind of what the material quantity collection data report looks like. And then for the supplier version, first page is pretty similar: background info, instructions, contact info, EPD info. For wood, the proviso has a bunch of requirements about what wood data needs to be submitted. So this page has all of that. All of those fields. The health certification is pretty short. It's optional if you have it. Code of conduct, it's like if you have it. Yellow is optional, blue, green is required. So if they have it, they can submit it. If not, then we ask them to describe their code of conduct situation. Production facilities is also pretty simple. It's like just location and name of the facility. Working conditions, this one's more complicated, but this is what the proviso asks for, like number of employees, what kind of hours they work, what types of employees there are, things like that. So I'll go back to the presentation. Okay. All right, so we submitted a progress report. So we talked about that at our stakeholder meeting. So I'll just talk about that really quickly. This progress report gives some more background information into our whole kind of research process, data collection process, how we develop the reporting databases, which data sources we considered, things like that. Some quick case study discussion about what the potential embodied carbon reductions of such a program might be. My colleague Megan added some information about ongoing legislation in Washington State. So it has all this kind of information, but concise. I think it's pretty concise. And current project status, which is where I'm going next. And this is a slide about the stakeholder feedback process. So we tried to be really open, but fair and straightforward about collecting feedback from people. But we got feedback from contractors, manufacturers, designers, and all sorts of people in a survey. And then we reviewed the survey and then revised the reporting templates. So we were at, yeah, like I think I mentioned before, what kind of, the questions that we asked were, does this information make sense? Are the instructions unclear? How would you improve it? And the summary of the responses were people wanted to know more background information about the project and the intended impact, or even how the data is going to be used. And there were also comments about material category organization and comments about wood, of course, clarification of terms. So all of that just made a lot of sense, really good feedback. All right, so the next part, the last part is where we're going with the project next. So we're about halfway through. So the next big task is to develop the actual reporting database. And we just submitted an RFP to hire a database consultant. So that just got published, and we're hoping to hire someone next month, and then hopefully they can start in April, and then that'll go through to the end of the year. And then the pilot projects, I think they're just working away. We're not asking too much of them right now, but we're going to have them submit their data by the end of the year, and we're having quarterly meetings with some of the pilot projects. And I think that's pretty much it. Everything's due at the end of the year, and that's all I have. Thank you. I think I'll pass it on to Kirsten now.